What's shaking, cats and kittens? Rob Lee here with a special message from this month's presenting sponsor. So I got a question. What was the first Black-owned business in America to offer publicly traded stock? Stumped? Here's a hint. You definitely want to see how the sausage gets made on this one. Learn about it in our food gallery at the Baltimore Museum of Industry. Details at thebmi.org. Also, use the code TRUTH50, that is TRUTH50, and you'll get 50% off of admission at the front desk, or use it when you're purchasing tickets online. So again, visit thebmi.org. Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today I am speaking with master suit maker and the owner of Christopher Schafer Clothier. Please welcome Christopher Schafer. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. You might be the most well-dressed guest I've had on. I mean, this is for my purposes, my benefit. But let's start off with this. Give us those vital stats, your background, and how you got into the art of measuring and design.
Well, okay. So let's see here. I got to go back about 15 years, I think now. I got married, and my wife's work sent us to London. And then first house I ever bought, I was kind of settling down and, ready to sort of that phase of my life. And 3 days after we closed on the house, my wife's work said we could go to London. So so by the time we got to our 1 year anniversary, we were living in London, and we went there for her work. And I was recruited and learned how to design suits while living there. So it was like, I wasn't necessarily going there for that. But I think it was the right place at the right time. And the right mindset to learn and be in a foreign city, so that's kind of how it sort of came to be from the beginning. And I had really good teachers, and now I've been able to become a teacher and a mentor myself. And we have a growing business. And I think that there's something to be said about the mindset when you are in a learning mode, and because I think there's different modes, there's different times and chapters in your life. And so, it's pretty amazing when you start to put your mind to something and what you can make happen.
Absolutely. And obviously, that experience in London had a profound effect on your life, and
Sure.
even that creative side of things. So,
right.
Tell me more about that, and maybe the importance of travel as a means to spark creativity.
Well, I love to travel. I have for years. When I was like 19, I started working for an airline, and I was able to travel for free. And so, it's interesting when I look back at things, because I've been in these different industries, and then you get the perks of working in those industries. And so, when I was younger, I worked for this airline, and it was loading planes and, driving all the equipment around and everything like that. And got to travel, and it was pretty sweet. So I did quite a bit of that. And when you're in that industry as well, then you get deals on places to stay and everything. And I had friends all over the place who would travel all around. And I think it shapes you into realizing, like, there's a bigger world out there than just the world that you operate in from day to day. And I also really, I try, it's like I have 3 kids, and I'd really try and show them, it's a big world out there. And so, we love to travel, and, that's it's fun stuff. I'm actually getting on a plane next week, and it's the first time in 2 years since I've been on a plane. We've been doing all of our travel by ground. We have an RV, and I love traveling around in that thing. It's so much fun just to go cruise around and have all these adventures with the kids and the dog, and it's awesome. So so London was a great place to be. I think it's kind of the epicenter for men's fashion, really. So that was the right place to be at the right time with the right mindset. But I do think that travel definitely sparks my creativity, because you get a chance to kind of decompress. You're not so worried about, business, and, you're in the moment a bit more, because it's not your typical day-to-day and so you can kind of just sort of breathe a little bit and decompress. And I find that's really good. It's good for me because, sometimes, not sometimes, most times things get to be pretty intense and fast paced. And I love that too. But I think there has to be, you got to kind of have an on and off switch a little bit sometimes, or at least know how to chill out.
I agree. I find that even if it's doing something that's adjacent to creative, if I do it in a different city, it's just a different vibe. I have less pressure of,
sure.
Oh, well, is this legit? Is this indicative of blah, 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 blah? And it's like I'm able to enjoy that. And even when I have to turn the button off sometimes because I do a movie review show outside of this, right? And
oh boy,
I have to do that thing of like, am I watching this for fun or am I watching this for research?
Well, what they say, when you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. Right. So that's the thing. I mean, it's like, I remember when I first started designing clothes and, it's even still now, I can't even, when I watch TV, I'm looking at what they're wearing. When I'm watching a movie, you know what I mean? It's like, it's sort of just, part of it is for the inspiration and the other part of it is looking to see, what's right and what's wrong, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Now I'm going to turn my video off now because now I'm like,
man, it's good. I mean, it's like, it just, when you're in that, when you're in a certain line of work, it's sort of like the red car thing. You buy a red car, you notice more red cars. You know what I mean? It's kind of that. It's sort of like that.
Yeah, I have that with certain podcasts. I had this running bit about doing a reality show where it's like people are pitching themselves as the next great podcaster. I'm like, your mic's too low, compression, just going through all of the things.
See, you can't help it.
I can't. I've been doing it for 13 years, so it's a thing.
Of course.
Now this is going to sound gauche, but I'd really want to get your feedback on this. Define fashion.
So fashion, I think is it's individuality, it's expression. Because I get a lot of people come in here and they'll tell me, "Oh, I'm not into fashion. I'm not into fashion." And I'm like, "Well, you're here, so you clearly care, or you know enough to know that you don't know enough. So you're bringing in someone that's going to take care of, that's going to help you with that." And I see a lot of people that go from kind of a ho hum. So as far as fashion goes, I think that it's different for different people. It's different for different chapters of your life.
Sure.
And where you are and what you're into and how you like to express yourself. But I think that even people who say that they're not into it, they are, because they're wearing clothes that are saying something about them, whether or not it's through what they do for a living or what hobbies they like or anything. So, I think that it is for everyone because everyone does wear clothes. So it's definitely, it's an expression of who you are. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people want to kind of confine to whatever norms so they don't stick out too much so that they can kind of fly under the radar. But then you'll see people who, who want to stand out more and want to wear clothes that are different and everything like that. So, to summarize it, I definitely think it's individuality and its expression for sure.
Absolutely. I find that, as I was telling you before we got started, that I've been doing more public-facing social events, and I find that I put on my for the art thing, right? I'm always wearing my Carhartt because I like how it fits, but also I throw on the Doc Martens. I grab all of my 20 rings and I put that on, and my brother makes fun of me. He's like, "You're just a cartoon character. You're a caricature right now." But I was like, this is what I feel comfortable in, and I think this is what fits, and this is how I'm choosing to express myself. And lastly, I think I'd add to it, there's almost a degree of performance to it too. It's like, let me dress for the part I'm in right now.
Look, I love Carhartt stuff. I've throughout COVID, I've built a lot of stuff, and I have the bib overalls and the boots and the hats, and my kids have the bib overalls. I even have it for my German Shepherd, has a pair of them, So it's like, their stuff is, it's well-made, hard-wearing clothes, and so there's a time and a place for that for sure. I just took a photo with me and the kids and the dog the other day, and it was like, it's freaking hilarious.
It's a great picture, actually.
It's funny, you know what I mean? But what's interesting, that whole thing that's happened with Carhartt recently, with them telling everybody to get vaccinated and people freaking out and burning their Carhartts and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, it's just
They should just cut the check. Like, look, sponsor me. I'm working on myself, and I am
Hey,
vaxxed. So let's just do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's like they do make and that's the thing. It's like it's how you express yourself, but also it's like I know when I'm doing like outdoorsy stuff and I'm getting really dirty, like and it's freezing cold out, the Carhartts are great for that stuff. You know what
Absolutely.
I mean? So it's kind of amazing what they've done. The same thing with like Dickies and all of that. You know what I mean? It's like it used to be very purpose made, and then it became a fashion thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which it's pretty interesting how that stuff goes. But that goes back to the expression part and also the function part of it.
Now this one is interesting because I think this ties into one of the earlier points you said about like London being like an epicenter for like men's fashion. I watch award shows, and on occasion, and there's not much fanfare about what the men are wearing. It's like that standard black suit, maybe a pocket square for a pop of color. What is your approach to men's fashion?
Well, I take the approach that every man should have a suit that they love wearing and they feel like they look great in. So, we do that through the business by making, new custom clothes, but we also, we run a nonprofit organization called Sharp Dress Man, and we recycle suits to dress guys for job interviews and getting back up on their feet. So, so it's like, I really, look, I believe that because I think that there's nothing worse than being when you go somewhere and you're underdressed. You know what I mean? It feels really uncomfortable. And, I didn't always grow up with having, I was far from growing up of having custom made suits. And you know what I mean? It's like, that's not the way that I was raised. And I think that if I wasn't in this industry, I might have one of these, they're made by me. It's like, but so I think that kind of going back to the to the original question is that I think that guys have to have the staples, right? You have to have a gray suit. You have to have a navy suit. And, we preach that to guys all the time. And then you start to get into how, when you understand how to start to accessorize and use different shirts and different colors and different patterns and different ties and pocket squares, and you can, and whether or not it's a 3-piece or we've been doing stuff like starting to bring back the suspend, bringing back the braces and all of that. It's like women understand accessorizing really well. Guys don't so much. But you can take something that's, you can take your basic staple suit and of it being like I said, a navy or a gray for starters. And, it's about really how the clothes fit. If they fit you properly, you can have a very expensive suit that doesn't fit you properly, and you don't need to know anything about fashion. You just look at it, something doesn't look right because it's not proportioned correctly.
Right.
And where you could have a suit that wasn't as expensive that fit a guy properly, and it just looks way better. And so that to me is like, that all goes into, that's when you get into style, right? And that's the thing is, it's like, style, it can't really be bought. You kind of have it, or if you don't, you can get help with that. There's people that are out there that really want to, and especially we know a lot of wardrobe stylists and people, all kinds of things like that, of ways to help you. It's the same thing. Like, I'm not a doctor. I go to a doctor when I need one. You know what I mean? So it's like, but does that answer your question?
No, it does. And and I definitely kind of connect on it because, always the standard gray. Gray is my favorite color outside of burgundy, of course. And I just remember it was one New Year's thing, and kind of bringing in different components of what you said there. I was like, my girlfriend dresses really, really gray. Always dresses. That's just what she wears, and she really commits to that. And I was like, all right, I need to do something that's, to me, like, I feel like this is fire. I was like, I need to get this tailored properly, the whole thing. I got this like burgundy pinstripe suit, and I had like a black shirt, black suede shoes, and I felt like great. I felt like, okay, this is the suit that pops for me. Whereas generally, I'm going to throw on that navy, I'm going to throw on that gray, and that's kind of how I look at it. And I try to have something that sticks out because I'm 6'4" and like 310 pounds. So I was like, I need to have something. I'm already sticking out by size.
Sure, you have a presence when you walk into a room.
Yeah.
They're looking regardless, right?
Right. So I might as well dress according to that.
100%. And look, we get guys of all shapes and sizes that come in here, and when the clothes fit you, it goes back to that feeling, right? They're going to be looking anyway.
Yeah.
And if you feel like it's just on point, then you can actually like be yourself a little bit more rather than being, self-conscious.
Yeah, I was peacocking that night. I'll tell you that much.
Well, I mean, it's a burgundy pinstripe. It sounds like you're going for it.
I definitely was. So let's switch gears a little bit. What is your favorite metaphor for describing entrepreneurship?
Oh boy. Good Lord. I don't even know. I mean, cause it's like, I just feel like for me, it's like every hat that you've ever worn throughout your life. Mm-hmm. And you find that the things that you didn't think were important in some job that you did a while ago is that skill set, you actually use it.
Sure.
So I don't really have a bottled up version of what that is, but it's like, I think that it's something where, I think that it's, it's something that, God, you got to be willing to do anything to make it fly. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it's hard. It's definitely really hard, but there's nothing like it. I mean, I don't think I could ever go back and work for someone again.
I dig it.
Yep.
So in that, having those different experiences, just kind of going for it, right?
Yeah.
What are some of what is maybe one of the strangest or funniest things you've ever done as an entrepreneur in making that pursuit? Has it been one of those things where it's like, all right, I need to just dress like a big like push pin or something like that? Like, what is that situation like?
Well, look, I think that when I first started, it was like, what was crazy was that I had started the nonprofit organization, the business, and a tie company all in the same year.
Wow.
So it was just kind of like I was free. I'd been working for other people and they didn't really get me. And then that sort of goes back into the entrepreneurship part of being willing to do just whatever you need to do to make it happen. And, it was a pretty interesting, 2010 was a really crazy time for me. But there was so many things that were kind of happening, because I couldn't believe that it ended up being where I had, a client who gave me a couple bags of old clothes. And the next thing you know, we're starting a 501c3 and we've helped like 10,000 guys dress, suit up for free since then. And then also, now it's like this fall will be 12 years of being in business. So it's, there's so many interesting things that have happened along the way. And even we had the tie company that was with Rick Dempsey, who played for the Orioles. He was a client, became a friend of mine, and then became a business partner of mine. And, that was kind of surreal in its own way. When I first saw that World Series ring and I was like, oh my God, he was, like when I was a kid and played baseball, that's when really, it's probably when the last time the O's that's the last time they won a World Series. You know what I mean? So it's like, but they were amazing back then. You know what I mean? So it was like, so there was definitely times of being around him and, it's like, and I've also, made clothes for a bunch of musicians and been in some really interesting situations with rock star guys that I really admire and, had them putting on our suits and performing in them. And like that turns my crank really. Cause I'm like, I've been a musician all my life. So that's like my favorite stuff.
Love it. I got one more like real question, and then you don't have these, but I have a few rapid fire questions because I like to troll people a little bit.
All right.
What would you say that your strongest influence was growing up, and are there any lessons from growing up that you may apply to your work today?
Well, strongest would probably be my dad. He passed away about 5 years ago, but he was a hardworking guy, and he had five sons, and my mom was a homemaker the whole time, and which is probably we always said that was probably a harder job than his job was, but he wanted his kids to have a business. He wanted all of us to do something together. Mm-hmm. And a couple of my brothers did, because I have a couple of brothers that are plumbers, and they've done business together or started their own businesses and stuff. And now I have 3 sons, and my oldest son is my business partner and runs our shop in California. And I'm hoping that my 2 younger sons get in the business as well. So, all that, I guess it really did rub off on me. Now I kind of understand why he wanted that for us so much.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
You gotta keep it. You keep it strong. Keep it in the family. You keep it strong. You trust your folks.
That's the thing. I mean, my dad had all sisters, and then he was the last one to carry on the family name, and then he had 5 sons, and then I was the first one to have a son to carry on the family name, and then I have 3 sons, but only my one brother has a son. So it's like, so the family name is kind of like, it's one of those things, you know what I mean? And now it's like, now with starting a business and it being after my name, I'm seeing that it's where it went from like a lifestyle business to where it's a legacy thing. And I think it could live on. And so I'm taking the approach that I'm building a foundation, it's sort of tortoise in the hare, you know? So I'm like, I'll just take it slow and steady wins a race.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of these quotes that I saw earlier from like Bruce Lee, and he was saying that like, don't give your kids materials, don't give them things, give them lessons. Materials fade, lessons, they stay there, and that's big.
Well, that's what COVID has been. COVID has been kind of interesting because I got it. My kids were, as lots of people, were doing school virtually and was spending a lot of time with them, and business was down and everything sort of went back to the basics for a while. And I really spent it's funny. They would have asynchronous learning is what they called it on Wednesdays, which is basically, figure it out, teach your kids something, like here's some lessons. And so I would do the Rad Dad Academy is what I call it. We do fun stuff on Wednesdays that was somehow educational. And that was pretty fun, actually. We would do interesting stuff and try and tie it into, we'd either do like be skateboarding. We talk about physics, or like one time I took them to the junkyard and they loved that. And we talked about, recycling and the earth and all, but it was fun stuff to do with my younger kids are just turned 13 and 8. So this was, interesting time to be doing all that kind of stuff, because then you kind of get to be a little kid yourself.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So now I got some rapid fire questions for you.
All right.
See, I've done all the goodwill of asking really good questions. Now it's time to just get weird. No. So this is not an exhaustive list, and you can express this as quickly as you want. Okay. Who are your 3 favorite clothing designers, aside from yourself, of course?
Well, I mean, what I'm thinking about, like for me, like casual, like if I'm wearing casual stuff, I like Brixton, I like Volcom, and I skateboard. I wear a lot of skateboarding clothing and everything like that. I mean, as far as like fancier kind of stuff, I like John Barbados. It's like I like the style of what he does. It's like I definitely kind of pull a page from his book, even though what I do is kind of different from what he does. So, it's like, I always like those kind of brands are sort of go-tos for me. When you get into the higher end, it's like you're talking about like Keaton and Brioni, and there's higher end work that's out there.
Sure.
But I always like the classics as well. It's like I like the Saville Row, kind of classic tailored look as well. So I kind of run the gamut, because it's like when kind of grew up as a punk rock skateboarding kid, and I still love all that stuff, and I still do all that stuff. And then you sort of evolve, and you kind of, those parts stick with you. So it's like, my wardrobe is from like Carhartt stuff to bespoke suits. You know what I mean? So sorry, that was supposed to be rapid fire.
No. I like it. I like it, because it's like that's the lane I'm looking at. I'm trying to, as I've gotten bigger, and I read the Andre Leon Talley joint. I was like, all right, yeah. I was like, okay, caftan. Let's get it.
What a character that man was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What is your one? If you could pick one, what is your go-to accessory? If you could pick one accessory.
Geez. Well, it's like, I think if I'm suiting up, then it's probably a pocket square. If I'm suiting up, it's a pocket square. It's weird though, because then it's like, but if I'm dressed casual, it'd probably be a belt. But I never wear belts with suits.
Suspenders, right? Always.
No, or a side buckle adjuster on them. Oh. Yeah. So it's those are.
Depends on the setup. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We got 2 more.
It's the same thing. Like I only wear a watch when I'm dressed up. I don't wear when I'm casual.
Really?
Huh. Yeah, it just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know if it's a time or a dressed up thing or whatever, but I'm like, Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like I always feel like I roll my sleeves up all the time anyway when I'm dressed casual. So
usually I'm wearing short sleeves.
We're not being rapid fire.
No. You're good. You're good. Favorite movie?
Oh, jeez. I gotta say one that we watch a lot at my house is Fantastic Mr. Fox.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lastly, what is an odd or hidden talent that you have?
Oh, geez. Let's see. Well, I mean, it's not odd, but it's, I've been playing drums all my life. That's kind of the main, that's been one that, I have a studio that's set up here. So, that's not really so much of an odd one, but it's been a constant, which is cool, So, I think that's probably the go-to. I mean, but I'm also like, I don't know, I'm in all kinds of stuff too. It's like I collect functional decorative glass. I don't know how that came to be. I also started collecting phones. You see the one that's up there behind me? So,
I do.
Yeah. So it's like, that's some Dutch phone. So I started collecting that stuff. So I like, when my shop gets fully set up, it's kind of a little bit like a kind of an antique shop / emporium. I don't know. It's the more space I get, the more stuff you kind of get everywhere. You know what I mean?
I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
You got to come by for sure. Definitely come by when you're in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. So that's all the questions that I have, but I want to, one, thank you for being on the podcast, and two, and invite you to tell the fine folks where to check you out online, social media, all of that good stuff. Sure.
I mean, the best place would go to ChristopherSchafer.com. And then from there, you can go to all the socials. We're on all of them. So it's, it's pretty easy to find us. We have relocated. We've now moved 7 blocks down the street. We're still on Alisana Street. But now we're at 2112 Alisana, and we bought a 100-year-old building, and it's all being renovated, and we will have a big grand opening in the fall. So that's kind of, and also the other thing too is we're opening a shop in DC at the beginning of April. So things are kind of growing. We're sort of ready to kind of get life going again, as I think a lot of people are. So hopefully this is going to be a very fruitful spring.
So there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Christopher Schafer for coming onto the podcast. And I'm going to say that there is fashion in and around Baltimore. You just got to look for it.